Let's get ready to rumble!
Happy hump day, everyone, wherever you're watching. This is your boy Nick, aka Alfred, live from the Bat Cave, Shank Club NFL. Glad to have you along. Got a special guest joining us very shortly. Also got Nick hopefully coming up and a few other guys. Unfortunately, Nick works for British Telecom and they kept him late, but that's British Telecom for you. Going to bring in our special guest, and we've been trying to set this up for a while, and I'm glad he can make it. So let's bring him in. It's Chris Crawford. Chris, who hosts the Too Close to Call with Chris Crawford on the Bleacher app. Chris, good afternoon to you. It's evening here for me, obviously. How are you, sir? And thanks for coming on.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. Glad we were able to finally figure out a timestamp that worked with the both of us here on your time, my time, and both the work schedules. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
That's the biggest problem trying to get guests on from the States is obviously the time difference. And that's why I kind of started this midweek slot so that I can get guys like you on. There's a few others that I'm still working on to come on and talk football, because it is very difficult here, because I don't want to be up at midnight recording a show to then have to go to work at 7 a.m, etc. So, and I prefer live, to be honest. I'm not a real fan of recording things and then putting them out. I prefer I won't say the thrill, that's the wrong word to say, but when the red light goes on, that's when I like it. I'm not a fan of recorded shows. So, and I'm guessing the same as you, being a radio, you're used to that kind of thing when the red light and you're on the air and you carry on. Tell us a bit about yourself, Chris. Where can people follow you, find you, etc.?
Similar to you, it's all live for me. The show that I host on the Bleacher app, not Bleacher Report, as a lot of people tend to go to, but Bleacher, BLEACHR app. And the show's called Too Close to Call with Chris Crawford, and I'm obviously Chris Crawford. But it's a live show we do every Monday and Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. Good luck calculating that because I even got the timestamp for this.
I'm not even going to try.
I thought we were starting an hour ago when I first messaged you. So clearly I'm not very good at it either. But either way, it's live at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time if you're in the U.S. watching it. And it's a lot of fun, very interactive with a lot of great guests. A lot of people can jump in and share their opinions. You know, it's like you got a chat feature, but you can turn your mic and camera on and participate in. The way I say it is like I'm hosting a Zoom meeting, but it's a sports show centered around it. And I do get good guests, you know, a lot of fun guests. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback for University of Central Florida here in Orlando. Stan Van Gundy, coach of the Magic formerly. Rashad Phillips, great online analyst for basketball scouting. So it's a lot of fun. New show, though, very early on, but it's a lot of fun. And also starting just 2 weeks ago for the first time was something called the Bitching Hour, which is every Sunday at 3:45 or during the witching hour of the first hour of NFL slated games. I think we all can calculate that time, right? I do a live show then, and everyone can join in, and we pretty much watch the witching hour, except we bitch about it. So it's the Bitching Hour every Sunday, and I go live. And again, that's also on the Bleacher app. You'll see the Bitching Hour, Too Close to Call with Chris Crawford. There's a little graphic right there in the app. Download the app, just create a username. It's great. It's a lot of fun, and anyone and everyone can join in for free. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun, and I really do enjoy doing it.
Sounds good. I mean, I got into doing this purely because of COVID.
Nice.
And obviously, we all know what a shitty year it's been, or 18 months even. And we started this show, me and my friend who doesn't do it anymore, but we started this just because of what was going on, and you couldn't go out, you couldn't see people. And this was our way to kind of react with other fans, etc. And it's been great. You know, sometimes the audience figures aren't brilliant, but I'm not really about the audience. I just like talking football and soccer, although we don't. And sometimes we talk about a bit of boxing, but mostly it's NFL on this show. So
yeah, we do a little bit. We do a little bit of it all with us, but yeah.
Indeed. Obviously, I can see behind you, you've got Peyton Manning. And I didn't know this until obviously we had a brief chat before the show. You are a Colts fan. So talk to me about the Colts this year. Good and bad. What do you think?
What good?
That's a head.
I don't really know much good to talk about. The defense has still been pretty solid, I guess. There's still good playmakers there. It's just not coming together early on, but it's also been a tough schedule. You know, we opened up against the Rams, and then Seattle, and then Tennessee. You know, those are all three pretty good teams. The Rams, obviously, a very good team from what we've seen so far this year. So it just hasn't been very fun. And it was in Seattle. Opening up on the road is tough. And then, home against the Rams is great, but the Rams have been great this year. And then Tennessee divisional game. It was just a tough start to the year. And we've got some winnable games coming up here. Got a game against the Dolphins this weekend. But also at the same time, unfortunately, it's kind of a revenge game for Jacoby Brissett. And it feels like that's kind of the way luck has been going early on for the Colts this season, given that Quentin Nelson's probably going to miss an extended period of time with an ankle injury. Carson Wentz has been battling through injuries, and he doesn't look 100% right now. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure where we stand. It's going to be a pretty interesting game to see this Sunday. I think it's going to be a point where we're going to be able to figure out whether the Colts are going to be able to win some of these games that they should later on, or if it's just going to be a very long year for this team, because it has been a tough schedule, but it hasn't really looked great outside of that Rams game.
It's interesting what you say about Wentz. I mean, are you sold on the Wentz and Reich experiment, or because I have to admit, because obviously, again, time zone things, the games in this country, you have the early slate, which is 6 p.m. over here. Then you have a 9:05 p.m. and then a 9:25. You've got Sunday Night Football, which is 20 past 1 in the morning. And then the same for Monday Night Football. So I tend to normally, and obviously trying to watch all 16 games is quite difficult. So I tend to watch the 40 game in 40 minutes or the 10-minute highlights, whatever they have on Game Pass. And I must admit, I haven't really seen a lot of the Colts. Obviously, you took DeForest Buckner off of us, and we traded him to you for those picks, etc. But how has Wentz been this season so far? Because he was injured, right? And they didn't even think he might miss several weeks.
Yeah, he definitely. I think there was no reason to play him in that game last week. I get it. That's an early divisional game against the Titans, but you have an extra week in the season, so I wouldn't have minded having him sit last week because he just didn't look right. He didn't look like he was able to get out there, and now we'll just kind of have to see what he's able to do again this next week. And he doesn't have Quentin Nelson out there protecting him now, so it's going to be tough because so far, even with take away last week the injuries and everything, it hasn't been great. It looks like he's still kind of that same Carson Wentz that at times looks like he knows what he's doing, and then at times it looks like he's never played a game of football in his entire life. So it hasn't been too encouraging this year. And as somebody who I was probably more in the, hey, let's go out and get Sam Darnold camp than I was in the Carson Wentz camp, because I figured it was going to cost less to get Sam Darnold. And I felt like there was more to be proven about Sam Darnold than there was about Carson Wentz. And there's still a whole lot of time left in the season, and things could flip around. But early on, it's looking like Carson Wentz was maybe not the best option to go with. And I'm hoping he can turn it around. But it hasn't. It really hasn't been too inspiring with him under center so far this year.
Yeah, I mean the conversation, obviously, we had this conversation with the UK Colts over here. I'm still not convinced Wentz is fixable, and I think that's the biggest issue, because the last season in Philly he stunk. I mean, people moan about Jimmy Garoppolo, which we are going to get onto, but you know, Wentz was terrible, and he was making some terrible decisions in Philly. And I mean, I was really surprised that, you know, Indianapolis went for him. I know, obviously, the link with Frank Reich, and Frank Reich can fix him and this, that, and the other. But obviously, as you've just said, it's not working out at the moment. And injuries are also obviously a factor. And I mean, it's a bit with us at the Niners, it's different because obviously we got Trey Lance in the background, but your backups aren't that good. And no disrespect to them. I mean, I've seen it. We had Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard, so I feel the pain of when the backups are out there. But at least I can say this year we've got a much better chance of, if Jimmy does go down or they decide to switch, we've got better options. But I don't see that, you know, in Indy. And the biggest thing I thought about the Colts was going to be the defense and keeping them in the games. And I know you've had 3 tough games, but obviously, you know, you can't. The defense can't carry you if you're not producing any offense.
And I don't hate the backup quarterback situation. It's just the problem is we have 2 guys and we don't know which one is the better option. And, you know, the saying, if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. So Sam Ehlinger and Jacob Eason, I kind of like Ehlinger better than Eason, but because of the injury early on in the year, he hasn't been able to. He just is coming back now. He's on IR to start the year. So we'll see if both of those guys are active this Sunday, or which one of them would be active this Sunday against the Dolphins, because I do think that there could be something there, but they're both really unproven, and there's a good chance that they both could be extreme duds and just be absolutely not. I'm not too high on Jacob Eason, but Sam Ehlinger feels like he has maybe something to him. I'm not quite sure. I've only seen a little bit of training camp and what he's done in college, but yeah, the defense was one thing that's I thought would carry us this year. And as I said, the defense has been pretty solid so far this year, playing against a good Seattle team, a good Rams team, a good Tennessee team, all with very good offenses. I mean, eventually Derrick Henry's going to run all over you. And eventually it looks like Matt Stafford's going to pass all over you. And Russell Wilson's going to dominate you in the first half and then quiet down, which is exactly what happened to the Colts the first 3 weeks. We'll see if they can kind of do something big against Jacoby Brissett, who they should be very familiar with, although he's probably going to want to show something to them as well. The thing that I kind of am thinking is missing with the Colts this year is their run game, right? Like the identity for the Colts, all like with Phillip Rivers and with Jacoby Brissett, was always their run game. It was just run the damn ball. They had hats and everything. And I mean, Jonathan Taylor's had a great year this year. But I honestly thought that they would be getting Marlon Mack involved, and they'd be using Nyheim Hines. I thought we'd be getting creative run packages and a lot of run schemes and a lot more running the football, because that was this team's bread and butter. Yet here we are now. They're ready they agree they're going to trade Marlon Mack. And I mean, Jonathan Taylor's been great, and you still got Jordan Wilkins there. And Nyheim Hines has been really solid this year. But that's one thing that really, it's just they haven't been running the ball nearly as much as the last few years. And the amount of success they were doing it the last few years was crazy as well. So I think that's something that they should really try and develop a little more, rather than Carson Wentz in the pass game. I know you traded for him and you want to try and fix Carson Wentz, but you didn't have to fix the offense. It was there. Let Carson Wentz become comfortable turning around, handing the ball off, and grow some confidence as the season goes. But it feels like we try to do the opposite and just force his confidence on him early. And now he's hurt and Quentin Nelson's hurt, and who knows what's going to happen. But the run game has really been the one thing that outside of Carson Wentz being iffy, defense has been solid. they haven't been utilizing the run game. And Jonathan Taylor's looked great. Nyheim Hines is too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was surprised they released Mack, because obviously I know he didn't play last season, did he? Because he was injured. But the season previously, he was a 1,000-yard rusher. And obviously, it's obviously the running game has improved, and he was now a bit part player. And it's probably best for both that they move on. But I'm surprised they did move on so quickly, if I'm honest.
Well, they're going to try and trade him, is what they're saying. But I don't know if you have any leverage at this point, because there's just, I mean, no one's seen him play. He's coming off that Achilles injury. I think as far as most teams would be concerned, that there's a reason why he hasn't been running the ball. Whereas I think it's only just because they're trying to put so much on Carson Wentz throwing the ball and trying to get him back to whatever he's supposed to be. So we'll see if anything can come of a trade, or honestly, I wouldn't be surprised exactly what you said happens, and they just end up having to part ways and release him or let him go, because they only signed him to a 1-year deal, and it was a relatively cheap deal, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was only like $2.5 or $3 million. Yeah,
two and a half, something like that. So he was cheap.
Yeah, and I'll.
But yeah, I'm surprised that. Sorry, go ahead.
And I'll like him on that cheap deal. Like, I think trying to work him into the offense would have been a better strategy than trying to trade him, right? Like, just like I don't understand the reasoning behind. I mean, he said he wants to be involved more in the offense. I think trying to develop a run game is the perfect way to do that. It's hitting you right in the face, and so like we'll just get rid of him instead.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, what would you say now his trade value is? Are you just gonna? I mean, as you say, he's cheap, so it's not like you're having to dump a lot of money. I don't know what his cap hit is, but even so, it's.
Could you even get a 6th rounder? Could you even get a 6th rounder for him? Or like I honestly don't even know.
So it is. It's a very, very weird situation with him. So whether he's had a falling out, and he thought he was going to still be the guy, even coming off that injury, maybe he's just not shown it in training camp, or it's hard to say with players like that.
I don't know how you can. I don't know how you can think you're going to be the guy coming off an Achilles injury when your replacement was a 1,000-yard rusher, and he's younger than you. Yeah, I understand that you would want to be that guy, but there are 2 younger backs in that backfield that are much more versatile than you right now coming off of that injury. But I still think there's a place for him turning around and handing the ball off to him. Nyheim Hines is primarily a pass catching back. I think using Marlon Mack is kind of somebody to alleviate Jonathan Taylor in the run game, and having backfield setups with Nyheim Hines and Marlon Mack in it could be very advantageous to the Colts. Jordan Wilkins is fine kind of being that 4th down back. That's what he's always been.
Unfortunately, Frank Reich thinks differently, and you know what it's like with these coaches, especially after watching the Packers-Niners game Sunday. Shanahan's taking a lot of heat. Jimmy G's taking a lot of heat.
So I didn't really get to watch a lot of that game. I just got to see a lot of the takes. So for you, those late night games start at you said it was like 1 a.m., right? 1:30 in the morning or so. I work a job that I wake up for at 3:45 in the morning. So basically, I'm running on a similar time strain with those games starting here at like 9 o'clock at night. So I never get to watch the late games either. And that one in particular, I went back and checked out some of the things, but I didn't get to watch too much. From what I gathered, though, 49ers fans, and you tell me if I'm wrong on this, are already good to go with Trey Lance starting right now and fine benching Jimmy Garoppolo and finding some trade partner for him.
Most are, but unfortunately, I'm not one of them. And I want to get your opinion on it, and because I've done this to death, and the amount of abuse I get on Twitter is it's to me, it's water off a duck's back because it's a game of opinions, right? And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I say or 20,000 other supporters say. At the end of the day, it's Kyle who makes the decision. And I'd like your opinion. If you were a 49ers fan, and obviously I appreciate we've seen the games so far, what would you do? Who would you be thinking of? The guy that does play shitty, and believe me, Sunday, Jimmy in the first half was awful. He was, even me, and I am a Jimmy supporter, he's not going to play it second half. He can't. He's just been too bad. And then he came out and balled out. And obviously we went ahead, but unfortunately there was too much time left on the clock. And for whatever reason, we played stupid defense, and Devontae Adams, 2 plays later, 36 seconds on the clock, they run the clock down, clock the ball, score the walk-off field goal. But what would you, if you had the same situation, for instance, with your team, what would you say? Let the rookie in there because you paid so, or you traded up to get him and hope that it works out, or stick with the guy that has got a winning record and could take you to the playoffs and maybe the Super Bowl, or piss the season away on a rookie that's probably going to make mistakes, and the Super Bowl window, as you know, is only open for a certain amount of time. What do you think on that?
So from my perspective, I thought all along you've got to let Jimmy G take this season full on. And after the way they started the year, they've looked really impressive. The injuries to the running backs haven't been the best, it hasn't helped them, obviously. But, your clock management, really, I mean, if they had just snapped the ball a little later when they were driving down the field there, but you also kind of have momentum when you want to roll with it. So I understand snapping it too. From being 3-0 with Jimmy Garoppolo, with one really ugly game under his belt, to kind of one good game and one mediocre game, like, this team is still a couple years removed away from being a Super Bowl team. And I think, I bet if you look back at that Chiefs year that Alex Smith started and Pat Mahomes was on the bench, that Alex Smith probably had a couple games that looked like Jimmy G's game this past weekend. And look how that still worked out for them. They won 11 games that year, went to the playoffs. They didn't win in the playoffs, but whatever. It was still a good season for them, solid season. I think that's something San Francisco can do, and they still have the caliber to make a solid run if Jimmy G can put it together and start figuring things out here. But I don't think that going and turning to Trey Lance right now is worth it, because I think if you do that, then the season all goes to hell, and you're not going to have winning year. And I think that a lot of people right now are really hyped off of the rookie season we saw last year from a Justin Herbert and from Pat Mahomes in his rookie season. And they've kind of broken the mold on what a rookie NFL season is supposed to look like, right? And it's supposed to struggle. It's supposed to be ugly. It's not supposed to be successful. You're not supposed to have a significant amount more of touchdowns and interceptions. Joe Burrow, another guy who kind of busted up that mold a little bit. That doesn't happen with every quarterback. People are already calling Trevor Lawrence a bust. Peyton Manning went 3-13 and threw 28 interceptions in his rookie year. The problem is that in this pass-happy, offense-happy league, I think people are still expecting every rookie quarterback to come from these college offenses that score a lot of points and immediately translate it and score a lot of points in these NFL offenses. And it still doesn't work that way. It's still an adjustment period. It's still going to take some time. You've got Jimmy Garoppolo. He's been to a Super Bowl before. He's about a 5-yard short or long throw away from winning a Super Bowl with you. I think you got to ride with that guy. This team still looks like a very capable team. I still think they have a shot in this division as well, no matter how good the Rams look. So you got to ride with Jimmy Garoppolo on this. Let Trey Lance continue to learn and grow, because guess what? He knew the situation he was drafted into as well. I like them being able to use him as a dual threat quarterback in a lot of these games. They've got to be careful in the games that Jimmy Garoppolo is struggling in, because then the loud and noise will start to get bigger for Trey Lance to take over for Jimmy Garoppolo. But if you do it smart, you do it strategically, let Jimmy Garoppolo build his confidence throughout the year, let Trey Lance learn and grow the year, then in the offseason find a trade suitor for Jimmy Garoppolo, or is this his final year of his contract?
No, he's got another year, but I think
Yeah, another year.
I know this is his last season. Even
Right.
without a Super Bowl win, even if he wins the Super Bowl, this is his last year, and I'm fine
Write
with
it out.
that. But I just
Write it out with him. Why not? It doesn't. It makes no sense, right?
one thing I know, and actually, well, to all the armchair quarterbacks and armchair coaches, you know, they want to dump Jimmy now, and that's it. But the two things that I noticed from Sunday's game, and I've taken heat on this as well. So he's dual threat. There are plays, there are situations that they're going to put him in. So he's on the sideline with his helmet on, and he's obviously can hear the call from Kyle that he's relaying onto the field in his earpiece, I'm guessing. And he was stood next to the QB coach all the time, which again, is that normal? Normally backups, I know he's different because there are times that if you haven't got your helmet with you, you can't go in the game. So I get the helmet on bit, but they showed him a lot on the sideline and he kept looking at the wristband, talking to the QB coach as if he was trying to understand that the play that had been called was the correct one on his wristband. And that kind of, to me, that worried me. Does that mean he doesn't know? Because everyone said, oh, he's got the offense down. He knows the system. I can throw him in there because he can do it. But then when I see that, I don't, you know, and I've got, oh, he needs to be next to the QB coach. He's this, he's that. But surely, have you ever, if you saw that from a backup, doesn't matter who it is, on the sideline, helmet on, keep looking at his thing, keep speaking to the QB coach, who's also on the Microsoft tablet thing, and showing him stuff, would that be a concern to you, or am I just making far too much?
Well, I don't know now that like you mentioned it, if I've seen that, you know, and maybe it's just because I haven't been looking for it before, but it is interesting, and it would make sense that he's kind of, you know, maybe he is sitting there and hearing the play call, and maybe he's going, you know, like this one, you know, like maybe he's making sure that he knows exactly what's going on and making sure that he knows the exact maybe the audibles and everything like that. And maybe it's a good thing though too. Yeah, I could see it in a way that maybe he doesn't know the playbook, like you said. It's like, wait, is this it or this it? But it also could be him just trying to be in the game and in the moment, and trying to learn. You know, and just trying to be there as well, and just trying to look at it and trying to look at the play. And he's saying like, all right, I would go. I think my first option go here and look here based on how they're playing. You know, you might be trying to play a little chess or something on his wristband and actually be doing something really different and intelligent and something that we haven't seen a quarterback do before, because I haven't seen a quarterback do something like that before, especially a backup in that situation, to have the helmet on and be doing it that intently. So it could be interesting. Maybe it is he doesn't know the playbook, but at the same time, maybe it is that he's just trying to study that hard and get that into the game and be a part of it that much, that he's just trying to be in there in that way. And I think that's kind of interesting. I would be curious as to what is going on there. I wonder if we could get some mic'd up situations in those NFL recaps. We could see something like that and see what he's talking about, because I would be curious as to whether he knows the playbook or if he's like overly knows the playbook and is trying to anticipate where the play is going to end up.
Definitely. And people, and I don't know how many times I've said, people call me a Trey hater because I want Jimmy to be in there. And, you know, I spent $150 on a Trey Lance authentic jersey, getting it shipped over from the States to here. So I'm not a hater. I know he's the future. I don't want him to be a bust. But when I saw that Sunday, and again, possibly I'm overthinking. I honestly don't know, but it just struck me as a bit odd seeing that, because I've never seen that ever. Normally, and I know because he is someone, and they've obviously got packages for him. He needs to have it, he could have his helmet down by his, in his hand or whatever, and then put it on and he's off or goes on. But I've never seen it, and it just struck me as a bit strange. But as I say, maybe it's me just overthinking stuff.
And remember, one of the things that they talked about in his pre-draft and all that stuff and everything, once he went to the combine, the one thing that they mentioned was, my gosh, this guy's intelligence is extremely unique, right? Like his cycle, the way he looked at the game and went about the game was something they hadn't seen.
That was obviously one of the big things about him, forgetting his running ability and his arm and all that jazz. That kind of, because everyone's, they got a great arm. But at the end of the day, if you're getting killed in the pocket, it doesn't matter who you are and how big your arm is. If you can't get that ball off, it doesn't matter.
That's why I would lean more towards it being something of that nature, something of him actually kind of understanding the game a little better than everyone else out there. But that's kind of all the more reason why you kind of let him sit and simmer and learn that even more. I mean, you think that he didn't learn so much from watching on the sidelines what Aaron Rodgers was doing out there? I mean, it's one thing to be starting in the game and be sitting on the side, but most of the times in those situations, Jimmy G's getting ready for the next drive. He's kind of not really paying, if you're the starter, you're not really paying attention to what a guy like Aaron Rodgers is doing a lot of the times, except maybe at the very end like that. But, I mean, regardless, throughout that entire game, Trey Lance being able to be in a position where he gets to learn and watch Jimmy Garoppolo do what he does with making all those mistakes. And on the flip side, watching Aaron Rodgers play, what he can take away from that is so much better than I think what he would take away from as a rookie being out there right now, playing in that game. I think this 49ers team is good. I think Trey Lance is going to be a very good quarterback, possibly great, possibly even phenomenal quarterback. But I think that I think we're skewing the way that we expect rookie quarterbacks to play early on in their careers, because what we've seen recently from a Justin Herbert, from a Pat Mahomes, and a Joe Burrow.
I think they're definitely the exception to the rule, because you've only got to look at the QBs that went, in the first round this year. And I love Justin. I really wanted Justin Fields to be drafted by the Niners. Oh, is that your dog? It's fine. It's fine.
Yep.
You did say.
Yep. Fiance came home. Yep. That's all right.
What dog is it, by the way?
There are two dogs. One is a.
By the way.
There's two of them. One is a pit, and the other one is, I mean, your guess is as good as mine what the other one is. He's a mix of everything, and the dumbest thing that you've ever seen in your life, but adorable.
A bit of everything.
Yeah.
Awesome. I wanted Justin Fields, and I still think he's going to be a great QB. I just think Nagy's going to get him killed, because Burrow last year got buried and got injured because the line is awful. And I don't think Chicago's line is that great, but then I don't think some of Fields, what he was doing was very, very good. I mean, Mahomes and Herbert, I think, are different levels. I honestly think if you compare the ones that came out with the hype this year to the ones that, like Mahomes and Herbert, they're this level, and everyone else is kind of down here. But yeah, I mean, I love Fields, and I tuned in. I watched that game as the early game, and I was like, Jesus, that is terrible, terrible, terrible play.
Well, I think part of the issue in that game was Nagy's coaching as well, just the offensive line and just the way that he coached that game for Fields. I mean, he was not creating any sort of offense that would work with the type of quarterback he was playing with. It was almost like he coached the game as if Andy Dalton was still playing quarterbacks. Not a lot of rollouts, not a lot of RPOs, not a lot of play action. It was just a very stale playbook for a quarterback who would be a stale quarterback, sit in the pocket type of quarterback. It was very, very frustrating to watch. And I heard a lot of NFL pundits and people saying that they thought Nagy could have very well been fired right there on the spot for just how careless and reckless of a game plan that was.
Yeah, it's a weird one there because I think he is really on the hot seat this year, and he's already come out and said.
I think he's gone if they don't win this week
again.
If they lose to the Lions this week, I don't think he's
that early.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Division Lions.
He's already said that. Well, they put up the Lions have been pretty close, and whilst the score did flatter them, they were in the game.
They've been an interesting team.
Playing up a bit.
Yeah, I think mine might be too as well. But the Lions, I mean, the Lions are the Lions.
They surprised me against the Lions.
But how much can the Lions really surprise the team?
The Ford family really don't give a shit about that team. They're just happy that their name is still on the stadium outside.
Well, did you see the owners getting booed at halftime as well of that game? They did, like, they were honoring Calvin Johnson, and they introduced one of the owners, and they got just booed endlessly, mercilessly.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I can understand why Stafford got the hell out of there, if I'm honest.
And look how good he's doing now.
Back the team, and it's sad because I'm sure Detroit is a nice. Well, I know a lot of places. Well, exactly. You just got to get in the right system. But you can understand why he wanted to get the hell out of Dodge when the Ford family don't care about the team. They really don't.
No, and that's why you see them not really ever getting to any form of success either, I think. And there's too much history of just people knowing, like, I'm not going to go play for no one wants to go play for the franchise that Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson both quit on in their prime. No one. Is there an internet problem?
No. But people complain about that and they quit too early. But if I was exactly in the same position, I'd do it because they're ridiculous.
Yeah, they just don't care. All they care about is the money that they make in their bottom line, and if it's green or if it's red, and whatever happens on the field, they don't care about, or the players that play for them. That's why Calvin Johnson was forever against them. They still owed him a bunch of money.
And I've got one of the guys that comes on our Saturday show, who is a Detroit Lion fan, and he said, "Oh, is it Martha Ford? Someone's just retired and handed the team down or team onto someone or other, and it's all going to be different." And you can see it's not.
Who do you think the most miserable fan base is?
I'm kind of glad that you backed up my theory about Lance and Garoppolo. As bad as Garoppolo has played, I'd rather see him make errors but win games than Trey Lance get thrown in. Most miserable, I'd say Lions, if I'm honest, or the Falcons over the last few seasons.
Okay. Yeah. It was just interesting. Something that popped into my mind during the Lions thing. Alfred, I'm sorry. I think that we are having a very bad internet connection now, though.